During a family party, my mom blinked 3 times. Our childhood code for danger. My name is Nadia Reeves. I am 29 years old. 3 months ago, I was standing across a crowded living room at my uncle's birthday party, holding a glass of lemonade I hadn't touched, watching my mother laugh at something my uncle's wife had said. And then my mother looked directly at me, and she blinked 3 times. Slow, deliberate, exactly the way she had taught me to blink when I was 7 years old. Sitting at our kitchen table, after my father had his first episode, when she told me that if she ever did that, 3 slow blinks, eyes holding mine, it meant something was wrong, and I needed to get us both out. I had not seen that signal in 22 years. My glass went cold in my hand, and I understood in the specific way that childhood-trained instinct bypasses thought entirely that something in that room was very wrong and that my mother could not say so out loud. Before I tell you everything, take a second to like and subscribe and drop your country in the comments below. Now let me take you all the way back. My mother, Vera Reeves, raised me and my younger brother Marcus largely on her own after my father's illness made him unreliable in the ways that matter most to children. She was a quiet woman, precise and resourceful, the kind of person who solved problems without announcing them and who prepared for difficulty the way other people prepare for weather. Not with panic, but with the steady, practical forethought of someone who has learned that the world does not warn you before it changes. The signal was her idea. She had created several of them when I was a child. Small, private communications that existed below the surface of ordinary life. A specific knock pattern on my bedroom door. A phrase she would use on the phone that meant "come home now." And the blink? 3 slow blinks with direct eye contact, which meant danger and meant get us out and meant do not ask questions until we are somewhere safe. I used the blink signal twice as a child. Once at a school event when a man my mother did not know was paying attention to me in a way that made her uncomfortable. Once at a family gathering when my father's behavior had shifted in the way it sometimes shifted, and she needed me to take Marcus to another room. Without anyone noticing, we were leaving. Both times she had delivered the signal, and I had executed without hesitation, because that was what we had practiced, and because I had understood from age 7 that the signal was real, and the reason behind it was always real. I had not thought about it in over 2 decades. My uncle, Dean Hargrove, is my mother's older brother by 5 years. He is a large, warm man who fills rooms with noise and laughter, and the particular energy of someone who has always been the most comfortable person wherever he is. He married his wife Pamela 18 years ago, after a first marriage that ended in a quiet divorce nobody in the family discussed. Pamela was pleasant, organized, the kind of woman who manages events and relationships with the smooth efficiency of someone keeping many plates spinning simultaneously. I had never disliked Pamela. I had also never fully trusted her. In the vague, unexamined way you don't fully trust someone whose warmth feels calibrated rather than natural. I had always filed that impression under your problem, not hers, and moved on. The birthday party was held on a Saturday afternoon in late September. 40-something people, Dean's backyard, the warm amber light of early autumn, the easy noise of a family that sees each other often enough to be comfortable. My mother had arrived before me. When I got there, she was in the kitchen, helping Pamela arrange food, which was the kind of thing my mother did at family gatherings. Making herself useful, occupying her hands, staying in motion. She hugged me when I arrived, and looked well, and said nothing unusual. The signal came 90 minutes later. I was near the drinks table when I felt the specific sensation of being watched. I looked up and found my mother across the room. She was mid-conversation with my cousin Bet, smiling at something Bet had said, and when our eyes met, She held my gaze for exactly long enough to deliver 3 slow, deliberate blinks. Then she looked back at Beta, and the conversation continued as though nothing had happened. I set my glass down. My heart was doing something I had not felt in years. Not quite panic, but the close, focused alertness of a body that has received a signal it was trained to take seriously. I looked around the room. Everything appeared normal. Dean was at the grill. Pamela was moving between groups with the smooth sociability she always performed at her own gatherings. Marcus was near the back fence, talking to our cousin Joel. Nothing was wrong in any way I could point to, which meant the wrong thing was not visible. I moved toward my mother with the unhurried casualness of someone crossing a room to refill their drink, and when I reached her and Bet had turned away to speak to someone else, I leaned slightly toward my mother and said, under the noise of the party, 3 blinks. She did not look at me. She picked up her glass. Pamela's office, she said. So quietly I felt the words more than heard them. The drawer under the printer. Don't let anyone see you. She walked in the other direction before I could respond. I stood for a moment with the specific stillness of someone deciding how seriously to take something. Then I decided. I crossed the house with the body language of a person looking for the bathroom. Unhurried, purposeless, and found Pamela's office at the end of the hallway, a small room with a desk and a printer on a side table, and the organized density of a person who runs their household like a project. I closed the door quietly behind me. The drawer under the printer held the usual debris of an office drawer: pens, paper clips, a small notepad, a charger cable, and underneath a manila envelope that had been placed face down, which I would not have looked at, except that my mother had told me to look. A document. Several documents, held together with a binder clip. I lifted them. I am not a lawyer, and I did not understand every element of what I was looking at. What I understood was enough. The documents were financial. Specifically, they pertained to a property trust in my Uncle Dean's name, a trust that had been amended 14 months ago. The amendment, as far as I could read it, restructured the beneficiary designations on 2 properties Dean owned, including the family home he had purchased with the inheritance from my grandmother 6 years ago. The primary beneficiary before the amendment had been Dean's estate, to be distributed per his will. The primary beneficiary after the amendment was a name I did not recognize. I photographed every page with my phone, returned the documents to the envelope, replaced everything exactly as I had found it, and left the office. I found my mother in the hallway outside the kitchen. "What is this?" I said, keeping my voice low. "She's been having him sign things," my mother said. Her voice was even, controlled, the voice she used when she had been holding something difficult for long enough to have processed it. "He told me last week. He thought he was signing routine paperwork. He trusts her completely. He always has." She looked at me. "He doesn't know what he signed." "How long have you known?" I asked. 3 weeks, she said. "I found out by accident. I was here for dinner, and she printed something in the office and left the room before it finished, and I saw the top page before I understood what I was looking at." She paused. "I've been trying to understand what to do about it. I didn't want to tell Dean without being certain. I didn't want to go to the family without understanding what I had." She looked past me down the hallway. "And I couldn't say any of this inside that room, because she's watching," I said. "She watches everything," my mother said simply. "We had 20 minutes before our absence from the party would become noticeable. I used 12 of them, standing in the hallway with my mother, speaking quietly, constructing the outline of what needed to happen next." My mother had already done more than I had given her credit for. She had, in the 3 weeks since she found the documents, spoken privately with Dean's accountant, a man she had known for years through the family, who had confirmed that the amendment was real. and had been executed through a notary she had traced to a firm Pamela had used for previous transactions. She had not yet confronted Dean directly because Dean, in her words, would go straight to Pamela, and Pamela would move everything before anything could be documented. "We need someone he trusts more than her," I said. My mother looked at me. "That's the problem," she said. "He trusts her completely. There isn't anyone. There's you," I said. She was quiet. "He trusts you," I said. "He has always trusted you. You're his sister." I watched her absorb that. Then she straightened. The small, precise straightening I had known since childhood. The posture that meant she had made a decision. We went back to the party. I spent the remaining hour doing something I am not naturally good at, which is performing ease I do not feel. I laughed at the right moments. I helped carry things when asked. I spoke to Pamela twice, both times briefly, both times with the pleasant surface I could maintain for exactly as long as necessary. Pamela was warm and attentive and gave me nothing, which told me only that she was very good at this, which I already knew. I called Marcus that evening and told him everything. He listened without interrupting. Marcus has always been the better listener of the two of us, and when I finished he was quiet for a moment, and then said, "How long do we have before she files anything else?" I said I didn't know. He said, "Then we move fast." We moved fast. Marcus had a colleague, a woman named Petra Holt, who worked in estate and property law. He called her the following morning. I sent the photographs I had taken. Petra reviewed them and called Marcus back within 2 hours. Her assessment was unambiguous. The amendment was valid on its face. It had been properly executed and notarized, but the circumstances surrounding a non-family beneficiary being substituted onto a property acquired through inheritance created significant grounds for a challenge, particularly if Dean could testify that he had not understood what he was signing. The window for that challenge was not unlimited. We had time, but not long. My mother called Dean the next evening. She told me about the call afterward. She had asked him to meet her for coffee, just the two of them, and he had agreed without asking why, because when his sister asks to meet for coffee, he has never once in his life said no. She had brought the photographs. She had laid them on the table without preamble, because she knows her brother, and knows that preamble gives him time to find reasons not to look clearly. She had said, simply, "Dean, do you know what you signed?" He had looked at the documents for a long time. Then he had said, "She told me it was the insurance update." My mother had said it wasn't. And Dean, who is a large warm man who fills rooms with noise, and who had trusted his wife for 18 years with the same uncomplicated faith that my husband Owen trusts me, had said nothing for a very long time. Just looked at the table. And then looked up at my mother with the expression of a man understanding, in real time, that the floor he has been standing on is not where he thought it was. He retained Petra the following week. Pamela did not know until the documents were filed. I was told, second-hand through Marcus, that when she was informed, she had been very still for a long moment and then said, with the calibrated composure that had always been her defining quality, "I see." 2 words, no scene, which told me, more than a scene would have, that she had always understood exactly what she was doing, and had simply believed she would not be found. She had not accounted for a signal taught to a 7-year-old girl, Elle, in a kitchen 22 years ago. She had not accounted for my mother's specific, quiet forethought. The kind of woman who prepares for difficulty the way other people prepare for weather. She had not accounted for 3 slow blinks across a crowded birthday party. The legal process is ongoing. I am not going to give you an outcome that is not yet final, because I am not a person who overstates what she knows. What I can tell you is that the amendment has been challenged, that Petra considers the case strong, and that Dean is no longer in the house on weekends alone. What I can also tell you is this. Last month, my mother and I had dinner together, just the two of us, at a restaurant we have been going to since I was a teenager. We ordered the same things we always order. We talked about Marcus, about my work, about a trip my mother is planning in the spring. Near the end of the evening, for no reason I could identify except that it was true, and I wanted to say it, I told her that I had never once in my life been sorry that she taught me to pay attention. She looked at me for a moment. Then she smiled. The small, private smile she keeps for things that matter deeply to her and that she does not need to perform for anyone. You always paid attention, she said. Even when you were 7, you never made me say it twice. I thought about a crowded living room in late September, the glass going cold in my hand, the way 22 years collapsed into nothing the moment her eyes found mine. 3 blinks. That is all it took. Because the right signal, to the right person, at the right moment is always enough.